Good evening, folks. We will call the town council meeting to order for the evening of February 11th. I'll begin with our pledge of allegiance. Nancy, we'll pick on you tonight. We'll go with the year. Just lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll call the roll, please, Stacy.
Mayor Frazier.
Here.
Mr. Benton.
Here.
Mr. McNeil. Mr. Mickey Hummel.
Here.
Mr. Randy Hummel.
Here.
Here. Mr. Wilcox.
Mr. Wilcox will not be.
Okay.
Do you have a motion to approve the agenda? So moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Motion to approve the minutes of last month's council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any corrections or additions?
When we said to accept the quote, we changed it to do the option of the extra hard drive. So,
I had that in there. To include the 4DG system. I have that in there.
okay, I was reading it fast on my phone.
That is in there.
So, perfect. All right, thank you.
Okay, so that's in there. So any other corrections or additions? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, the minutes from last week's work session.
Move to adopt. Put it,
Second.
There's a second, okay. Any corrections or additions?
I have two corrections. I think, Stacy, you got one on the vote slip, just a period after vote slip, leave out the next budget cycle. And the second one on the planning commission, we decided to go forward with it being, we agreed to have it introduced with option A. So just to clarify that, because it says,
Okay.
so we'll need to decide, so
Okay.
we did decide.
Yeah, option A is the one that cuts it off.
Right.
Phase out.
More conservative.
And then also the zoning ordinance, and this is nitpicking, it's a lot in caps that we use.
That's all important. Okay.
So, John, you and you, the group that you're working with for the kayak,
Yeah,
we want the cost proposal.
we're getting some proposals for a totally handicap accessible installation on the south side of the pier and one of those steps.
Right. Well, depending on what that cost is, council may or may not decide to fund it from economic development
Sure.
funds, not necessarily put it into next year's
I'm
budget.
gonna, we'll release some documents shortly here, and at the end of the month, in your March, we'll have proposals, what it looks like, what it will take to it in this budget.
Okay, all right. Okay, with those corrections, those now in favor of the minutes from the work session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay. We have an annual visit tonight from Nancy Valentine. You come all the way down from Colonia?
Actually, I was in the city today, so.
Oh, you were.
We bought one.
From our accounting firm, Neil Aikman, Balin, and Coleman, who's going to give us an overview of the financial statements from fiscal year 15.
Just flip it out so you okay. Come back to two pages. So, never mind. The first page is the table of contents. The next two pages are the independent auditor's report, which was a clean opinion. That the statements were fairly presented in all material respects the financial position for the year. So that's always a good thing.
You said it wasn't clean.
Yes, it was a clean report.
Okay, you can sit down now.
So where we are now is the front section of the statements, which is the management's discussion and analysis. And basically, this is a narrative of what happened during the year, what increased, what decreased, and some reasons, justification, or reasons for those. So everything that's in here is driven by the financial statements in the back. So we'll spend a little bit more time on this section because it explains better. So if you guys have it in front of you, the first, well, I'm not there yet. So the financial highlights are, this year there was a new GASB that came in, which is the Government Accounting Standards Board. And it was a pronouncement that said that every governmental unit has to include in their financial statements their representative portion of the pension liability that you hold in the state. So that was included in this year's financial statements and resulted in a prior period adjustment. The adjustment was made respectively as of 6/30/14. So the change went there, and then the current year effect went to the 15 statements. So that was applied retroactively. So on the government basis of including all the governmental activities and business type activities, the assets and deferred outflows of the town exceeded the liabilities and deferred outflows, resulting in a total net position at the close of the year of $16,056,310. So during the 2015 fiscal year, the town had an increase in the total net position of 1.522,589. And the net position of just the governmental activities increased by 1.372114, and the business activities, which is the water and sewer, increased by 150,475. So those are all positive things. At the close of the 14-15 fiscal year, the governmental funds reported combined ending fund balances of 1.423166, an increase of 154,671 in comparison to the prior year. The general fund reported, which is the operating fund of the town, an increase in the fund balance of 118,504, bringing the cumulative balance to 1.342489, or 55.64% of the general fund expenditures at the conclusion of the fiscal year of 2015. So basically, this section kind of serves as an introduction to the financial statements. If you want to flip to page 11. So this is the statement of net position, and basically it gives information on all of the assets and liabilities of the town, with the difference being shown as the net position. So over time, the increases or decreases are a useful indicator of kind of what's going on with the financial position of the town. So the result this year was an increase of 1.52 million, which was a result of capital assets increasing and also liability, but the net was a net increase of 1.5 million. On page 12, the statement of activities shows how the position changed. And basically, what happened this year was there was an increase over the prior year in capital grants, which were used for the capital assets that were increased during the year. Otherwise, the amounts were very comparable to the prior year. Basically, that's what you'll find throughout, is that the major changes between the prior year and the current year were due to the capital assets. Now, the fund financial statements provide more detailed information about the town's funds. They are broken, so if you go to the next page. You've got the general fund, the capital projects fund, and the economic development fund showing there, and it's showing each of those and what happened during the year to them, or at the end of the year, what those balances were. So basically, these are the financial resources that we used. These do not include the fixed assets or the capital assets of the town or the long-term liabilities. It's only items that are going to be paid in the fairly near future, and it includes anything that's going to be collected in the near future. So any long-term liability would not be shown, any long-term asset would not be shown. So it's basically what we can use right now. So the next page, page 14, basically is a reconciliation between the page before and the first page that we saw as far as the governmental fund balances. And as you can see, it's the capital assets that are available or used by the government, and the long-term liabilities are the major items that are not, these are the reconciling items. The next page shows the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance by the different major funds, which is the general fund, the capital projects fund, and the enterprise development fund. These amounts were relatively comparable to the prior year. The intergovernmental revenues were up due to the capital projects and the grants and items in that for the year. The next page shows the reconciliation between the two statements, the governmental funds, and the governmental statement shows any expenditures for capital projects as an expense, and then the overall one shows depreciation expense. So it takes those assets and expenses them over their life. So that's a difference of $841,000. And the next basic difference is when you have the proceeds of long-term debt, it's included as revenues or other sources of income on the governmental statements, but they are shown as a liability on the other, so they're not included in income. So those two items are the difference between the change in the net assets between the two reports. The next page is the proprietary fund, the sewer and water, and you've got the statements of net position, which is the balance sheet showing all your assets and liabilities, and this is like the first page. It has all the fixed assets, all the liability, all the long-term debt, et cetera, because these are kept on a accrual basis. So in these, they're very comparable to the prior year also. And then the next page is the revenues and expenses of the sewer and water funds, and those are also very comparable to the prior year. The next page is the statement of cash flows, which shows where the funds came in for the operating funds and where the money came out. And it's pretty comparable to the prior year. Okay, and then we get to the notes to the financial statement. And basically, the notes are kind of explanations of some of the items shown in the financial statement. The first couple pages are the summary of significant accounting policies, what the reporting entity is, the basis of presentation, the governmental-wide financial statements versus the governmental funds, the revenue recognition policy, which is basically the susceptible to accrual, which is the current, anything that's going to be collected currently, or over the next 60 days, anything is going to be paid out in a comparable time. The expenditure recognition, and basically it's expenses you're going to record when they occur, whereas revenue, if it's going to be received in not the near future, it's not recorded in the governmental fund statements. The proprietary funds are basically a full basis, so they show everything that they have. It goes into explain cash equivalents and investments, and interfund receivables and payables, amounts due between the funds, property tax calendar, when taxes are assessed, when they're collected, etc. The property tax rate. Receivables are recorded at net realizable value. It's how much you're going to receive for them, and any bad debts are written off, which really aren't really anything. Next page, we hit unearned revenues, which basically unearned revenue arises when assets are recognized before the revenue recognition criteria has been satisfied. Prepaid items are payments to vendors for an item that hasn't been used yet. So basically, insurance, if it is for a future accounting period for the whole year, then it's expense as it's used up. Capital assets, it describes what the capital assets are and what the estimated depreciable life or the depreciation on them. Impairment of long-lived assets, if there's any assets that are believed to not have any more useful life, they are written off as impaired, which we haven't done. Compensated absences is basically the leave, accrued leave for the staff, vacation that hasn't been paid out yet, or is that able yet, et cetera. Long-term obligations are basically any long-term debt, et cetera, that's included in the fund financial statements. The fund balance is broken into different sections. Non-spendable, basically, it can't be spent because there's really nothing there for it. It's like prepayments and that kind of thing that you're going to be used in the future. Restricted are, basically it's restricted for a purpose. The Economic Development Fund is restricted for use related to that. Committed funds are also amounts that can be only used for a specific item based on the town council's decisions. Assigned are basically balances that are your intent to be used for a certain item. And that's up to you guys to decide that. And unassigned is anything that basically doesn't fall into any of the other categories, and it can be used for anything, any projects or any expenses. The financial statements show the current year in detail and then summary for the prior year's comparison. The new accounting principle that I talked about was the reporting for pensions, and it basically was included in the current year and adjustments were made for it. There were some other GASB statements this year that came out, announcements, but did not apply, and there was no effect of them on the financial statements. There is one that will be in effect for 2016, which kind of warned you about. There's budget information shown in the back, which is for the general fund, and it explains that a budget is paid every year and compared to the actual. Excess of expenditures over appropriations during the current year. Some items that, there was only 4 items that were over the budgeted amounts. And they were the community development, the welcome center expense was 10,000 over budget. Public safety beach patrol was 18,000 over budget. debt service, the principal and long-term debt was over by $33,000, and transfers out, which is transfers between the public, capital projects fund and the general fund, were over $101,000. The next is deposits, which is basically that the town has deposits in the GIP, the Maryland Local Government Investment Pool, and that what that item is. It's not a on-the-market security that can be, traded like a normal money market would. So the amounts due from other governments at June 30th, 2015 consisted of items primarily for the capital projects, with some for the, no, they're actually offered for the capital projects. General fund had some highway user tax, the controller's office for the gambling revenue, and recreation excise tax. Internal receivables, payables, the amounts between the general fund and the capital projects fund is about $500,000, and that's due to the timing of the items coming in and expenses going out. And then the interfund transfers between the capital projects fund and the general fund was $363,876, and that's basically the general fund subsidizing acquisition costs for the capital assets. There's a description or a roll forward of the capital assets with the balances at the beginning of the year, and then increases, decreases, and the ending balance. And the capital project, the increases were $844,000, of which $2,750 came out of the construction in progress. So that was actually a net of $842. And then in the sewer and water, was an increase of $463 in construction progress for the upgrade on the treatment plant, and $84,000 of machinery and equipment. And then depreciation was taken off of that. Long-term debt, the long-term debt increased in the current year in the sewer fund because of the treatment plant improvements. And then there's a basically summary of all the debt of the town, which shows each of the bonds payable for the general fund, and the annual debt service requirements on the next page for the next 5 years, and then the 5-year periods after that. And it's the principal and interest and total maturities. The state notes and bonds payable for the sewer and water, basically it was an increase for the first one, which was the loan agreement with Maryland Water Quality Financing for the treatment plant upgrade. And then there we have the 5-year and 5 years after that maturities of all the debt. On the next page, we have, it's required an extensive employee tracking system note, which basically goes into how everything is calculated from the state, but it's all state-driven and state-run. And then the impact of the new pronouncement this year. So the town is 0.001371% of the total state pension fund. So it's got the next 5 year or next 4 years expected decreases and increases in pension expense due to amounts coming out. And it basically has what is listed as the actuarial assumptions and the target allocation of all the asset classes and the rate of return on those. On the next page, we have the agreement between the Chesapeake Beach wastewater treatment plant, the interjurisdictional agreement. And then the next page, we have risk management, we have the coverage of the insurance policies, and the prior period adjustment, which is related to the pension, pension reporting of the new master. Subsequent events, anything that happened subsequent to the date 6/30/15, and the date the financial statements were released, which was December 11th, that would have had to be noted in here. And then there's required supplementary information, has the budget comparison for the general fund. And then the next couple pages have items required with the pension disclosure, and it's the schedule of proportionate share of the pension liability, and the schedule of the town's contributions to the pension liability. And the last is the report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance and other matters based on an audit of financial statements performed in accordance with government auditing standards. And basically, during the audit, they did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that they considered to be material weaknesses, and the results of their tests for compliance and other matters disclosed no instances of non-compliance or other matters that were required to be reported under the government auditing standards. So that was also a
Thank you, Nancy.
clean on that. So, any questions? Push off sleep? Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Where's Joanne?
She's out with some issues.
I was just going to compliment her. I mean, it's a wonderful job that Joanne does, day in and day out.
It is, it is.
I wanted to compliment her. Council, have any questions on that? Thank you for that nice report.
Thank you. Safe travels home.
Ron, I'm going to give the public safety report, sir.
How are you doing, sir?
Good, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
January was a fairly quiet month, with the exception of the Sunrise Park. We had 119 calls for service this past month, down significantly from last year and down from December of 2015. As you know, our detective is up and running full time. He's Ricky Kress. I sent him and Deputy Fox, who are both assigned to the beach, and sent them to what they call an interview and interrogation school, basic and an advanced session, which gives them the training that they'll need and equip them with the ability to effectively sit down and interview and interrogate suspects and things like that. I started assigning the cases from last year, but we haven't had anything significant through the month of January. This Sunrise Garden Park happened while they happened to be at school, so kind of put that on Facebook here with our Detective Wilkerson and Richardson here. They were determined to get us all as we were, and we ended up getting some interviews and got confessions. I think the last time we talked, one person was charged and another one was waiting charges that have been issued for that second subject. He's away at college right now, but there's what they call a pending warrant / summons out there right now for that person.
Well, that was for the second incident.
That was, that was for the very last incident, the one for the spray painting and all of that. So we had 2 incidents that occurred in 2015 that we had several suspects listed in that, different from these 2 that were recently charged.
Any update on the first incident?
My guys are working on those now. We do have several suspects listed in that, and they're spread out throughout the county. We hadn't run them down. So Ricky and Deputy Fox can be running with that throughout the next week or so. And we hope to bring good news by the next meeting.
So it's not in the dead files?
Oh, absolutely not, no. And in fact, that's where during this dead time or this slow time at the beach, we've opened up some of the old cases or let them run with some of the old cases, and that's what they're doing now. Absolutely not in the dead files. We expect to close one or both of those for sure. We had the breakdown of the calls up there, if you had any questions. A theft of a delivered package is the only thing that went unsolved last month. It was a UPS package that was delivered in questionable circumstances for which that went delivered. The person that was expecting the package had somebody come by to check on it, and they said it wasn't there, and the person that checked on it very much a suspect. It is what it is. We had a burglary, it was domestic related, and that was closed by arrest, and we had 2 DUI arrests in the case last month.
All right, council have any questions? Sergeant Norton?
I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
And on the report, it talks parking complaint 2. I mean, because it brings up another question for me.
Okay, so we responded to 2 parking complaints last month.
Something somebody's, from somebody's house or?
Usually that's what, usually they can be anything from a vehicle with dead tags, it can be somebody blocking a driveway, somebody blocking, I'm not sure specifically where they were at. I would have, I'll let Tom go.
It's going to segue into my 4th question. The next one says traffic complaint. Is that, what is speed, I mean, what is?
Traffic complaints are usually cars speeding up and down the road, like this young lady came to me tonight, I don't mean to point you out, but she complaining about a truck that's got an extremely loud exhaust on it, and it's probably a diesel truck, and I was explaining how, so that would be a traffic complaint, anything that's moving, maybe a car racing, racing up and down the street or, running back and forth, so that would be a traffic complaint. Parking complaints are usually for those cars that are stationary.
The other, this has been a conversation that's been going on for years, but I noticed last night when I was coming down 2nd Street and I went to cross over Chesapeake, I mean, the cars are parked all the way, like, almost past the ends of the roads. In other words, along Chesapeake, they're like going over top of Chesapeake, but you can't see. I mean, you really have to either go right or just close your eyes and floor it to get across.
Gotcha.
How are we going to fix it? I know this has been a conversation for years. How do we fix that? Because it happens all along Chesapeake.
They can't block or override an intersection with their parking, and if that's a problem, I can certainly bring that to my guy, and we can start cycle for parking citations.
I mean, really, truly, you have to go right or just roll the dice that no cars are coming. At least at night you can see some lights.
So give me an example, let's say 2nd Greenwood, you got a car parked on 2nd Street, it's overhanging on Greenwood a little bit, it's just parked and overhanging the end of the curb.
Well, I think the intersection he's describing, cars
Right here.
cars don't even have to overhang
Right.
2nd Street. If they park in that spot where we have put no parking,
Second,
You-
Chesapeake.
you can't, your line of sight, your visibility to the left, as you try to, inch out into Chesapeake Avenue, it's risky.
The odds are that if we left here right now, there's somebody parked right there.
2nd Chesapeake.
Yes, right, I mean,
And it says no parking.
It says right in front of the Metro Appliance Store, Sergeant.
Okay.
it's at night. I really never see during the day, but and what worries me is the fact you just can't see. And that happens more than it doesn't throughout the town. And I know this has been a conversation, a debate over the years. What do we do about it? It's an issue, a code issue. It's an issue, not even a code issue.
It's parking violation.
It's parking violation.
Sign will actually
Who
take care of it.
enforces that?
If it's a no parking violation, we enforce it.
So the rules are, just for safety purposes, or understanding it, it's 15 feet from the stop sign? Is that how it works?
I'm pretty sure it's 15 back in the intersection.
It's got to be 15 or 20 feet from the stop sign.
Yeah, back in the
And those types of things we can enforce too. It doesn't have to be a violation of a no parking sign. It can be a violation of, being too close to a stop sign also, parking within 10 feet of the stop sign. And we can begin throwing some tickets on some cars.
If you could at least start taking a look at that and let us know next month, because you'll be very busy on this road here. It is just a major.
It's all over town.
Well, all over, absolutely all over.
Yeah, it is, but the intersection of 2nd and Chesapeake is probably as busy as any in town.
Absolutely. If you get the appliance store, you get the gas station, you go.
You have everybody coming down from San Francisco,
Yep.
2nd Street.
Fifth Street also has the same issue, but there's that bump out there. But like, the issue comes like, if there's an SUV there and you're in a car, it's just the sight lines are bad.
Right.
Like, when I'm in my Nissan Frontier, I have a little bit higher profile than when I'm in my Taurus. So I can it's just what I can see around, and that happens here at 2nd all the time.
Good and what?
Chesapeake.
We prefer the mutual.
Yeah, it's just some of the
We'll
parts.
take a look at it all through the town. We'll bring you some heads up on it next
But,
week.
I mean,
Bring you some results on that next
In
week.
addition to enforcement, the bump out, right, is obviously an obvious solution that we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we can't park.
The tree well.
Yeah, well, there's not a big
Talking
tree,
about-
exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
I
the tree
mean,
well.
that's,
Yeah, well, maybe with our streetscape
Yeah.
thing, we should take this,
So we'll.
Needs to be
we'll
studied.
go along
That was
that.
part of it, yeah, the design.
all right, good, thank you.
We'll bring you some
Get some
feedback
tickets
next
up there.
Yeah.
Yes, more corner, second and,
We'll take care of it.
Chesapeake.
We'll get it tonight on the way home.
Anybody in here parking up there? All right, we have the treasurer's report. Joe's not with us, so I'll quickly run down the highlights of her report. The beginning balance, this is for December. Doesn't have January?
Yeah, she's been running them a month behind, when they see it comes through.
I know. Okay. Beginning balance was $311,398. Total debits, $348,829. Total credits, $396,685. Ending balance, $263,543. Last year was $1,085,164. Investments, $2,386,391. In the general fund, in the government insurance pool, $34,000. In the sewer capital, $7,400. In the water capital, those numbers change very little. Total cash available to the town is $2,691,375. Last year was $3,161,670 at this time, right at the end of the year. Council members, you see the receipts listed over $7,500 and the disbursements over $7,500. Do you have any questions? Would Joanne be in tomorrow? Anybody have any questions? Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report? Moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, Don, your public works report.
Before I get on the starting report, I just want to remind everybody of the weather forecast for watch tonight. This weekend is going to be really extremely cold, so, keep saying that whatever the pipes, crawl spaces, whatever's going to be affected. I saw a bunch of hoses still connected to hose bits today, so just take a look at that. Sure we'll get some costs this week. But, last council meeting just brought up, we might have some sidewalk issues throughout town, and the mayor instructed me to take a look at those areas and go ahead and, come up with some solutions. Met with a company, Precision Concrete Services, and that's kind of their specialty. They go around identifying trip hazards, and what's good about them is they have ways to remove the hazards without tearing up the whole sidewalk, get rid of the whole concrete problem, and have to re-pour it. So I did meet on site with them last week. We took a quick survey through town. We did find a lot of places that had hazards. They gave me a proposal to start correcting some of them. We looked at the main high traffic areas, some of Chesapeake Avenue, right from the Catholic Church. Certain problems been getting worse for a few years now. We started the dead area there. We got a quote to do like 200 feet of repairs to the curb there. The sidewalk is actually settled 2 inches in some places from the curb. People coming out of church, not on tripping and falling around. We looked at that, we got the price. It was well under limit we did, and we got a contract with them, signed that, and actually I saw the guy today, he marked that area out. They're scheduled to come out next week to start with some of the job. When we look at the work, see the type of job, which I saw, they did some samples for us. We can actually go ahead and do more for the same. We got a linear foot price, so we can add them to that if we want to. We can start there.
It was, how many feet there in front of the church?
That's about 200 feet.
Yeah,
Price.
his proposal was $4,900. I signed the contract. As I say, we're vulnerable, we're liable on
Right,
it,
right.
because it's a public sidewalk.
Exactly. And he did do a sample rate on Metropolitan Appliance there, which looked pretty well the way he wanted it into the existing sidewalk. So we're hoping, the curve is the same, and I say then we can add to it to the side.
And you've got other spots identified.
Yeah, so we went through all through town. He actually's been out twice, and it snowstorm and everything else, we kind of delayed. So we went through pretty much half of the town, came over the list, and he did a priority check list. We looked at that thing. Quick update on the flood day construction. Due largely to the snowstorm, not much activity's happened over there. Not only with the snow, but then melting afterwards, it's kind of warm, so the ground is starting to mush pretty much in that area. Contractor actually pulled his equipment out of there because they're calling for coastal flooding with the luckily we didn't get it that week, but we did get it Tuesday when we were there. But he pulled his equipment out, tried to come back the week after, got the Bobcat pretty much stuck and was tearing up the ground there, so, he's scheduled to come back on site, but in that time, the contractor, town staff, me and Mr. Hall, have been working on resurveying that area. Now that they came in, put that sandy filler in it, we can actually shoot the grades, we've actually set out the layout of the dike. We were doing that kind of stuff, we have some soft areas there where we're kind of maybe putting a giant dike around it. So we've been looking at those type of things. Also, we discussed the height of the dike, and with the storm we had Tuesday, the flood elevation tide was up at 3.0. The dike was originally scheduled to be like 3.5, we decided to go, or at least look at going to a 4.1. That gives us a little bit more. We would only have 5 inches or 6 inches of clay with that coastal flood we had the other day. We feel with a little bit of settling that might occur, that's not giving much room. And for a little bit of money, we could add another foot to that. I mean, if you do have an inch or two settling, a couple inches settling, that would be that much more.
Well, there's a limit to how high you can go based on.
With the road,
Yeah.
right. 261 limits that, so we kind of looked at 261 and where it's going to start coming across, and we're going to be higher than that, it's just going to come around the end or whatever, so we kind of took all that into consideration. So we feel like that 4.1 would be a little bit more protection for the area, but not doing anything crazy where, the road will flood around the road, and it's kind of like half a year on it. So we looked at that. GXX is getting all the material that we used for the base of the dike, and also we did the material, a sample of the material we used for the dike. He tested that did come back good for that type of construction. Contractors also submitted all other related materials like the geotech that goes under the dike, and that's all in the specs, we met the specs. So we do have a progress meeting with him tomorrow here at Town Hall, and we're going to get an updated schedule from them, and we're pushing him to get back to work as soon as
It dries out.
yeah, since it dries out, nothing soon. And so you can get a stockpile there without having to worry about, being construction, which is because of the weather. As everybody knows, probably they experienced a major snowstorm from Friday the 22nd until Sunday the 25th. Public Works crew was in pretty much the whole time, plowing and salting the roadways during the duration of the storm. We try to keep everything open so the emergency vehicles could pass through the weekend. And then Sunday, we try to concentrate on getting the roads clear so people can go back to work exactly Monday. The rest of the week after that, the following week, we pretty much clean up all the snow equipment and did maintenance on that. And like I just mentioned a little while ago, Tuesday, the 9th, we did have a very unusual to me high tide experience here in town. We had the tide that went up probably higher than any of the summer flood tides that we had this year. We came across 261 right by the sewer pump station there, and totally crossed the road there, inch water going across the road. So that's only the second or third time I've seen that happen. That was unusual, like I said, for this time of year. I mean, it was an elevation, we figured, me and John just by looking, it was an elevation 3, which meant the tide was 2 to 3 feet above the normal high tide. That flooded, 2 o'clock in the morning, started flooding there. Say it flooded to about 10 o'clock a.m. Tide went back out, road, pumps were, they pumped it down. But then by 2 o'clock, tide came back in and started flooding in by 2:30, 3 o'clock, and stayed until probably 8 o'clock that night.
And was that a full moon?
It was
I think it was a new moon, it was a new moon.
New moon.
Yeah, which is still,
Same.
yeah, which is the same.
And the other thing that, we didn't have we usually get northeast wind when it happens, we didn't really have that much wind, but we did have that storm that passed by up to like New Jersey, that snowstorm, whether that had an effect, and threw some more up in the bay, and then from the melting snow, it was just a lot of water in the bay. That's really pretty unusual for this time of year, so we'll see what happens. Update on the flood signs, we worked for, Fifth Street area, not been real happy with this vendor. That was the gentleman, you all remember, came in and did an actual talk for the council. But it seemed like it's gonna take forever, and there's one little form we didn't sign, it was radio frequency, and that was holding up the whole thing, but they have shipped, he told me they did ship February 3rd, so I expect to see them any day now, it should take us a couple days to install them, going through the weekend. Next thing is Gate 9, the sidewalk project. Continue working Mr. Hoffman on finishing up the little details of that. We do have a, on that, we just have a few minor details to work out. And actually, the crew was out today and started removing some of the trees. They took down one of the trees over on each side of Gate 9 with a curve from there. Monday, we're gonna come back and do the two on the west side. That project is started, it's where that is. One thing I forgot to mention when we were talking about Precision Concrete, they did come out, we did do that, but we also had Atlas Concrete came out. We were talking about them in the last council meeting also. We had about 9 or 10 at least patches where we had to put a new sewer clean out in. We tore up about a 5x6 area. They did come out Monday and they did concrete all those areas. So we only had one that they didn't do. But them all, 9 out of 10 of those were done at the same time on Monday.
Any questions about Johnny? Johnny? I want, oh, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Do we have a ballpark cost on the raising that back up, that extra bit?
What did it wasn't, we did a rough number and it wasn't, I think it was like, just the dirt. Yeah. I don't want to tell you wrong, I'm off the top of my head, but it wasn't a large.
Substantial.
Like, even maybe 50 grand.
Okay.
We did, and that was a rough calculation, just using the cubic yards of
Yeah,
dirt,
a dirt
and with
needle,
the,
okay.
we got a cubic yard price for
Okay.
the dirt.
Um,
And what we looked at on that was, we figured if we're gonna do it while equipment's here,
That'd be the time.
now the time to do it, instead of waiting, getting
Wait
the
till
material
it's
planted on, getting the plants on, and then
yeah.
try to go back on. So that's a good thing.
Okay, thank you.
Johnny, I want to compliment you and your crew for the job you did during the snowstorm.
The crew did a great job.
We always did a good job.
Thank
You
you.
guys work hard.
Appreciate that. We had, the new guy that we hired, Mark, he was really helpful, stayed here all Friday night in the crew. Like they spent the night, they appreciated having a new building, we appreciate each other, and that was a lot easier work out there. But they slept, 3 of us slept there Friday night, stayed Saturday morning. Yeah, we took a lot of chill there. That was, a lot more comfortable than anything in the old shop, felt like you're sitting sitting in a truck. It was cold. When we had the 2010 storm, that was a long night.
And by the way, the new cameras have been installed, right? Down in the overlook
I
part.
did leave that off because that was done this week, but they have installed that, as they call it, hot face computer. And that's going soon, so, and they're, really clear. We have, Ronnie, like, we have one that's probably 10 feet, we need a dawn from the gazebos and from the walkway coming from Merlin's. So we can zero in over there and we'll be able to see, definitely vision images.
Comparable quality to what we have at Sunrise Garden.
The exact same cameras were put in, the only difference, we do have 2 down there that are 12 millimeters, which gives you the zoom of that. I think Sunrise is probably like 3 or 4 millimeters, but we did that there because it gives you widening and gives you a whole picture. But at Sunrise, we put 2 that are 12 millimeters, we could zoom in on the walkway, look on the barracks there, and we also put a 3 millimeter wide, so we can cover those there, so those are good shots. We could look at it at night, and it's black and white, and I could do it pretty good. So, they came out, they were really quick, they didn't have them. Came up to South Carolina, installed, and did the software. Pretty happy with this stuff.
Thank you. John?
I'll give you the highlights of my February report. The flood, Don covered the flood dike, the living shoreline project. Again, we're waiting for spring weather to break, and then we'll be checking any subsidence or any planting material that didn't take over winter months, and then they'll be upgrading that. We'll probably be able to final that project out by midsummer. The zoning ordinance and map, there's more to do on that tonight. Drainage railway projects, I think you can say they're done. We're just waiting for the weather to break on that. I think you have what you need, and the concrete contractor has what he needs. Get one more tree out of the way and need some decent weather.
Right, we should, if we had them both out and they, just familiarize us up with the job, we both know what to study.
Good. We do have a project on the books, for the 7th Street outfall, which could have been a contributing factor to the flooding that occurred at 7th and Bay, Mexico there, this last storm. Talked this with Don. I think we need to get the flood dike in going. Some of the water that gets to that intersection comes up Annapolis Avenue, but the flood dike will prevent that. The flood dike will hold that part of it back. So we still may want to consider the 7th Street outfall after we see how things work in that whole area with the flood dike in place. On the state highway, I understand they're getting ready to respond to the town's request for a higher roadway and a pedestrian bike facility on the west side. We expect that they'll be responding to us. They're going to have to, because the transportation priorities are coming up this spring. And I'm pretty sure that our project's going to be.
I'm working right now on a meeting with Secretary Ron, the Maryland Department of Transportation and Senator Miller.
Great.
Three of us are going to meet in the very near future.
Good. Transient slip project, the state, the public notice periods are expiring with both Gore and MDE, and as soon as they're done, and that'll be by the end of this month or early March, we expect permits. We are proceeding with a procurement package, so we have a contractor to go as soon as the permit are issued, and we know what the cost will be. I'm working with the committee on the Performing Arts Center feasibility study. We had a meeting with the advisory committee in that last week, and I think we were like about a week and a half, 2 weeks away from having that thing ready.
No, I'm just waiting on you. I'm
Good,
good.
good. There's very little work to do on that, finish that up. And one item I didn't have on the report, which is what we talked about earlier in the meeting, we're doing a procurement package for a fully handicap accessible kayak launch on the south side of the pier. And we'll have results of that process for you in March.
When did you say the RFP for the streetscape might be ready?
For what?
For the streetscape, for the tree wells and the entrance sign?
Streetscape, that is done, that is in final form, and this one we're ready to issue. What we did is, CPH, who were well qualified to do that, I've asked them to give us some, to take a look at that RFP and ask them if they see anything in the RFP that we haven't included, should include, and what a budget may be. We're supposed to get a response from them probably in the next week to 10 days, and then we can decide if at that point, just go ahead and get that issued. I can share with you the draft of that,
Sure.
if you'd like to see that. Sure.
Great.
Let's, you'll have that kayak material available by the March work session.
Absolutely, yes.
Put that on for a decision from the council on when we will proceed with that.
Actually, have the quotes back, is that what you're, actually have the quotes back, is that what you're asking for?
Yeah. Okay, any questions, John? All right, thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Rick, code enforcement, please.
Hello.
Hey, Rick.
Good. I have no vehicles here for the last 30 days, but I did have Ronnie then picked up, I guess, 2 vehicles for me right at the end of December, beginning of January, unregistered or untagged. There's been much less of those, fewer and fewer, since they've been staying on top of them. They're usually pretty quick. They usually make a call and they have somebody, Ronnie usually has somebody there, or whoever's working, usually within 5 or 6 minutes to tag the vehicle, and so that's been going pretty good. The very top ones are just ongoing issues that have been going on, that have been completed filing. Second Street was one of the ones that we had abatement court with, that the judge allowed to postpone. That gentleman has actually been very productive in coming close. I think the next court date, they'll probably just dismiss everything. He's just about complied with everything. A couple of tree issues that have been fixed. Everything all the way down to, I guess, it's in right up there, has been either completed or is close to being completed. The one at 4050, they can't finish doing what they need to do until the weather warms up. Some of the maintenance issues require a certain temperature outside. And everything else is stuff that's just been taking place in the last 30 days. Letters have been sent out. You can look down at the bottom where we started 9552 Seagull. Randy told me there was some issues over in Burnt Oaks. They've asked me to start being a little more aggressive with some of the maintenance issues there. So the whole bottom and the next
Now,
page
what is with CO Court?
they were all maintenance issues related to either fencing, handrails on decks, stoops, front porches, that just, the maintenance of them has just fallen down. The railings were falling off. Some had no railings at all, they've just been removed or kicked off completely.
Are these mostly rentals?
I'm gonna say probably a good number.
I think,
So
I
these
think
are
about
the
70% of them were.
Is the landlord responsible for the tenant?
The letters are being sent to the tenant and the landowner.
To both?
Yep. So actually, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, about 6 of these have been corrected.
Oh, yeah.
They have been corrected. 2 of them were property owners, had a contractor come out and redo the porches, put new railings on. And then one of the tenants has started fixing the other one himself, and he's working out something with the landlord to, I guess, take off his money.
When you send those letters out to the owner and to the tenant, you should also copy to the homeowners association.
They have,
So that they know.
we've been trying, but there's been
There's been some other people in the last
a
few
huge
months.
turnover in them, so one set of people wanted the email notice every month, and now, I don't know who's new, whoever the new lady is, she doesn't, she said if I just talk to her once a month, that's fine. And so, Randy usually lets them know with the,
Yeah, you have to work with, you have to work with.
they've had a turnover, right? I mean, there's been,
Oh, geez, their entire board resigned.
yeah, they've had people just, they all quit, and then they had new ones, and then they quit.
It's because of one person, isn't it?
Randy.
You've had 6 years you could have gone to their meetings. I never heard you even cover for me once. Yeah.
And now they've hired a company, another,
And a new company now.
They have new.
so now there's a new company, so I'm just waiting. They've got my email, my phone number, so I told them if they want to report every month, I would give it to them, but they've asked me to be more aggressive, so we've been citing anything that could,
Well, it's good to hear that some of them have been remedied
yeah,
already.
yep.
Anybody
And then
have?
I met with Glenn and Mike at the environmental committee, and there's some things that we've been working on to try and correct some other issues without having to cite people that we might be able to just correct on our own, so.
Do you have any questions?
Well, I just, no, I think it's so important that you're here. I mean, this all ties into, you know, beautification, economic development, and, you know, I appreciate you being here, even if it's quarterly, it may not have to be every month, but, and I think it's important, you have some excellent ideas. You came to our meeting, met with us, creative things to, you know, help resolve some of these issues. I know they're not on this report, you know, things even like partnering with SNEEDS. I know you're gonna be having
Right.
more conversations. So there's ideas and things that you're doing behind the scenes that don't make it into this report. And I think it's important for, you know, the council and the community to know, you know, the excellent things that you're doing. So sharing those other things besides these.
I can start adding some things on there, like some of the stuff that doesn't, it's not just statistical data.
Yeah, you know, kind of the partnership ideas or involving the community. I think that would be helpful. I know, I like to see that.
Yeah, like I'm waiting back now, I'm waiting on a call back from the Department of Aging. They actually said that they have some grant monies that can be helped for elderly who are like on social security or disability that have property issues. And so those would be other areas that we might be able to get some of the cosmetic things done that we want done that, you know, won't affect the people we have in town that just financially can't do it.
One of the things that was startling to me, I mean, correct me if I'm getting the number wrong, but I believe you said at our meeting, there were like 40 homes that were in some kind of violation, needed something to be rectified, and the person was either disabled or couldn't
Just
afford to
elderly,
make
like
the
there's
fix.
just a lot of people that just live just
Yeah.
strictly on social security. You know, like I said, I had the one lady call and she was terrified that we were gonna cite her house and that, you know, the neighbor was telling her, well, they're gonna cite your house if they can take it at tax sale. I'm like, you know, she's like, I've lived in North Beach since 1940. So I had to convince her that that's not what's going on. You know, we've got some other ways. So we went out and helped her do what she had to do. But so there's just some ways that we can solve some of these other things without, you know, through some other avenues and then I'm not looking for them.
And those kinds of things I think would be helpful if there's kind of themes like that that you're seeing, that you need council's help or ideas, you know, I'd love for those to be continue to be brought to our attention. So appreciate all that, right?
Yep.
I just truly appreciate the idea, though, is code enforcement is a word that, it's a job. But, I mean, we're not, you know, having a conversation with you many times now in the environmental committee, the goal is to help, not to find
Yeah, I mean,
posts and
the goal is
letters.
to-
So
to
we just need to
cosmetically
educate
fix
people.
what needs fixed, not necessarily to,
Right.
yeah.
And I think the more this conversation continues and this new program gets rolled out, I think we'll see that more people are going to jump on board with it because it's not the town trying to do something, they're trying to help. So I look forward to seeing it get rolled out soon. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a list of the elderly people in town?
No, it's just the people that I deal with when I go door to door, but the Department of Aging does have a list of all of the elderly people who they think are either in jeopardy or on, you know,
And if you're looking at
Financial.
Social Security, it's very difficult.
they have financial issues, and so I reached out to the Department of Aging after we had our meeting, and they're just waiting to compile a list of what they can get
And
from me.
I think it would be good to have a list, that you want to keep an eye on these people, because they tend not to ask for help.
Well, they get a little, sometimes they're embarrassed, or they don't want to say anything, or like I said, when the one lady called from 9th Street, she was just, you know, she was terrified. She'd call her son from out of state, and, you know, they're gonna take my house from me, and I hadn't even started, it was just a letter saying, hey, you gotta move some stuff out of the yard, but, you know, she was terrified, so,
Stuff like that, they can't do that.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for working with those individuals.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, time for public comment.
Okay.
Jay?
I know we talked about it before, and at the last meeting I was at, about notification for any kind of flood stuff that could go through the county, about the flood that happened down at 9th Street. Because there were people with cars underwater down there on Tuesday night, trying to move them at 4 o'clock in the morning. And we talked about going through the county, notification of those people in that area. And I don't know where that is at this
I think
point.
Joanne did, not to interrupt you, but I think Joanne sent it out, but what happened Tuesday night, we didn't even get like a flood, usually we get a coastal flood warning or some kind of notice ourselves. That kind of caught me off guard. And we didn't send it out Tuesday night, we sent it out a couple times before, I think we did. Try that system, Joanne did on water, effective everything, and did a couple other things.
I signed up for the notifications, I didn't get one.
It might have been a water main, we shut off a water line, do routine maintenance, and she notified just that block, and she did try it, and I think that was, but on the flood, if we know, like, they're calling for a flood warning, we'll put it out, but that one Tuesday night, I got a wake up call at 2 in the morning, so high level at the pump station. But we didn't even get, usually I get something from Channel 4, and this is coastal flood warning, something like that.
Yeah, it didn't come out till like
It
7 or 8
didn't come
o'clock
out
the
till
night
that morning,
before,
right,
after I realized it happened.
right.
So I was just wondering if there's any, because I called the county and they won't do an advisory. That was a coastal flood advisory, and they won't put out advisories, they only put out warnings and watches. So that's what I'm asking.
But we did try the, it's a reverse 911 system, and Joanne's been working with the Road Control Center, and we tried it on that water main just to see how it worked. And that was a small scale, and I knew she did that. We plan on, full scale, she's been trained, well, me, Stacy and all of us will be trained, but Joanne that with, projector on, and the Calvin Control Center.
I guess sooner the better, because the lifted
Yeah.
shorelines made it a lot worse down there.
And so I think we did that even, last Friday, we did one for the water main maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on it, Tim.
You know, but we're definitely working on, we don't do everything. And so that was out of the blue there, and that.
Okay, any other public comment?
Once again, no agenda. Is there something wrong with sending out an agenda? It's not on the website, there's nothing printed tonight. I mean,
Well, the papers were taken, but it was on the website. I don't believe we did a news email blast, but let me say our server has been up and down all week long. So we went on earlier this week, so that is why it has not been sent out as an email news blast this week.
I looked before I came, I didn't see it up there.
It was on the calendar itself this week, earlier this
yeah,
week.
when you click on the calendar, you click on town council, there's nothing there.
It's under, I know it's under town clerk.
Yeah.
She puts it on the calendar. Like she said, we've had issues all week.
All week long. That's why I wasn't there.
Do you click on the actual calendar, and then the agenda pops up on a different day?
It was.
It's under, I always put it under town clerk, like there's probably a couple of years worth on it. So it's under town clerk, February 2016.
It's under town clerk.
That doesn't make sense. If you click on the town council meeting, it's always a page pops up and it has the agenda right there for you to print. So no one's gonna look under the town clerk. People are gonna click on the calendar, they're gonna click on the word town council, and it pops up. That's what they're used to. Please don't change it.
But now we know something to look at through the website.
Absolutely.
Yeah, make it more
And to have like a section of easy clickable links.
There are things like that that do need to be front and center,
Yeah.
and
And
I'm
our
just saying
website
this
is hard to work
website
with,
is,
so.
Right. It's not user friendly, I completely agree.
So,
How are we coming with the RFP from
we're
the?
working on making some changes and trying to find out.
Okay, business items, who's giving this report?
Oh, I thought they had requested to move that to the March work session.
She told me this week.
Originally, they had said this week, and then she had told me that they need a little bit more time, and
She never gave me that request, that's
Okay.
why we put the banners up this week, and she told me okay. And then she never came back and told me anything different.
she mentioned to me that they needed more time, but maybe she didn't send the email. So, yeah, March.
I thought it was an oddball banner that wasn't.
That's why they were up there. She
Yeah.
asked for them to be up there.
Well, I knew
this
they were
week.
gonna be looking at them, but she said that they needed more time to kind of do the analysis. So, yeah, it should be on the March work session.
The March work session?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Just that one.
That and
That's all.
kayak.
Kayak and band.
Okay, next under ordinances and resolutions, Tonight, we're scheduled to introduce ordinance 16-01, which is the rezoning of the North Beach zoning ordinance, the new ordinance. We've been through the process, the legal process of having it presented by the planning commission to the council. We've had the public hearing. We've had the council meet, and we've kept the record open for the public. We had the council discuss it last week at the work session. Because there was only one unresolved issue, they came to a decision on that one issue last week, and that is to be embodied in the ordinance tonight. So the individual who would like to introduce this, you might want to stipulate that that one unresolved issue, the R2, as you might, the council has decided they want to restrict it to the west side of Dayton Avenue. So that's, I'm sorry, nothing on the west side. Right, my mistake. So review that, we introduce the ordinance with that understanding. Okay, do we have someone who would like to introduce the ordinance?
I'd like to go ahead and introduce the ordinance 16-01, the North Beach zoning ordinance, with the understanding that we are going to adopt the R2 option A, where we're going to reduce the R2 to the east side of Dayton Avenue. Based off the work session's support of council, that's what we have recommended to be passed.
All right, just for clarification, this ordinance is an ordinance adopting a codification and revision of the zoning ordinance of the town of North Beach, county of Calvert, state of Maryland, providing for the maintenance of said ordinance, repealing and saving from repeal certain ordinances, establishing a penalty for altering or tampering with the ordinance, and making certain substantive changes in previously adopted ordinances. Okay. All right, it has been introduced. Next week, we will take action on ordinance number 16-01.
Well, I have to ask our attorney something. When did we put in the establishment of penalty for altering or tampering?
It's always been in there.
I've never seen that.
Yeah,
I've never seen that.
It was in the ordinance when we did it last time.
I've never ever seen it.
Don't tamper with it.
Before we have, the last month I hadn't even looked at that on purpose, because the next month I did go through it, to the old one, just because I was part of the planning process, so I know I have all kinds of versions in my head. But I definitely kind of go through it, could really look at it, but feel something in me is saying there's something that I think is missing. I would just recommend everybody sort of really look, take time to sit down and go through it and really look at it. I know, sometimes when you go over it so many times, you just stand.
If you amend it at all next time, then it's gonna have to go to another meeting again. So, but that's okay. I'll look at it.
Yeah, it's that important. There's something there to talk
Yeah,
about.
The final version has to be in 2 meetings. We're introducing this
Okay.
tonight, and then so the
Okay.
public gets a chance to see it
Okay.
between now and the next time. That's the way it's designed, so that if it's changed next time in any substantive way,
What if it's
then it would have to go to another meeting.
Okay, what if it's just like, make sure this is
Well,
listed as
I'll
a
look.
reference?
The key to it is whether the changes are substantive, so
Okay.
I'll see what you have.
Okay.
So, all right.
Yeah, because I remember that one time, a number of years ago, there were a bunch of typos and jammed us up with duplexes and apartments.
Well, it's out, the type is passed, it's being professionally typed, type is passed. And today was the last day for public comment on the document.
That's fine.
Okay, Randy, have you moving forward?
Nothing, just stay warm and hope this breaks soon.
So, I guess I have, I don't know, some bad news or maybe good news depending on
know who you are. Jen and I have, we will be moving, not too far, just on the 7th Street, but we will be outside of the limits of the municipality of North Beach. If anybody who wasn't from here drove through, we're in North Beach still. But nonetheless, that means that next month will be my last meeting in the council, at least on this side of the dais. So I'll do more formal remarks probably at that meeting, but you know, I went to the constituents, all the constituents that I let you all know. So next month will be my last meeting in the council.
As always, I always like to bring up the Neighborhood Watch Program with Linda back there, Linda Kearns. If you are not on her email list, please get on there. She has great information, keeps you on top of what's going on in the town. It's just a great resource. She does an amazing job with it. One of the things that she has promoted, and I know the sheriff has, see something, say something. When you look at the report and you see some of the arrests, it really helps when, if you see something that just doesn't look right, call the sheriff's department. Just call them. They will be more than happy to take a look into it. Just call them. Because that really helps the town overall with the safety. And it's improved immensely, but we just need to keep doing what we're told to do. And that you see something, say something. Other than that, thank you so much.
Well, with this cold weather, which I'm not very much for cold weather, that's for sure. I'm excited. What keeps me going is thinking about spring and thinking about some of the things that the groundwork that we've laid. You know, the RFPs that John is working on for the streetscape and possibly a kayak and banners and the good work that you're doing, Rick, to help beautify the town as well. So I think there's a lot of exciting things underway. I think it's going to be a beautiful spring and summer for North Beach. So hopefully that will kind of get us through. And everybody stay warm. Remember what Donnie said about unplugging your hoses and turning off the water. I think it's supposed to get down to 10 degrees on Sunday. 5. Last I heard was 10, so, okay, yeah. That's it, yeah.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. Last night I had the pleasure of attending a very long planning commission meeting in Chesapeake Beach involving potential development over there. I'm going to bring that up just because with us, the two towns being so close together, things over there affect us, things here affect them. And I just wanted to be aware of what's going on. If that development goes through, that may change some plans that could be here that were mentioned in the zoning and in the comp plan and in the CPAC. So just that, it's just my thoughts going, that things teeter-totter back between the two towns. But other than that, thank you all for coming out. See you next month.
Thank you, Mickey. The College of Southern Maryland announced their dean's list for last fall, the 2015 fall semester, and there were 5 students from North Beach: Frederick Adams, Elliot Greening, Sean Mooneyham, Owen Mulliken, and Noah Reeves. So, shout out to those outstanding students. A month and a half ago, Mike Fenton and I attended a Southern Maryland Municipal Association meeting in Annapolis. And at the conclusion of that meeting, an individual named Lisa Craig, who was an employee of the state of Annapolis, gave a report on the project that really is her focus as an employee of that town. And it has to do with preserving historic structures in Annapolis in light of rising water. She has something here. She brought it to well, it resonated with me because what happens in Annapolis certainly happens in North Beach. Very much on the same bucket. And just coincidentally, I saw in the newspaper that there was going to be a speaker in Annapolis at St. John's College, I guess it was probably 3 weeks ago. His name is John Englander. He's a scientist, but very well informed on sea level rise. He's the author of this book right here called High Tide on Main Street. I believe it's available on Amazon. The auditorium was packed with residents from Annapolis. You had voting people, you had business people, you had residents, people who are interested in historic structures in Annapolis because many of them are down by the dock. And she, incidentally, all these things just happened coincidentally. Then I think one Sunday, maybe January 31st, I picked up the Sunday Capital on the Anne Arundel section. City may see $1 million to fight floods. This is the city of Annapolis. The mayor up there is asking Governor Hogan to put $1 million in there because they are dealing with rising sea levels, as we are. We see it. I've lived in North Beach since about '96, so about 20 years, and I have seen the difference. And the forecast, and then, by the way, this book I'm going to leave here in Town Hall. It's very eye-opening. The presentation, goes through the history of the planet over millions of years. There are definitely ice ages and trends, warming, and it shows you where we are now. And this Lisa Craig started this project of, she calls it Annapolis, weathering it together. And it lists all the steps that Annapolis is now taking in preparation for rising sea levels. And John Englander, just to kind of go to the bottom line, if you will, he's telling coastal communities, to begin to prepare now for the next 3 feet of sea level rise. He's saying that, now, you can believe it if you want. Some people don't believe in it. But he says, look, whether you're Democrat or Republican, ice melts at 32 degrees. And there's a lot of ice on Greenland, there's a lot of ice in the Antarctic. If all that melts, and it will one day, sea level's going to rise 216 feet. He doesn't believe that Miami is going to look the same by the end of the century. I don't know that North Beach will. Let me just finish this up. Bear with me. I want to be accurate about this. Sea level at some of this is factual. Sea level at Annapolis has risen by more than a foot over the last century, more than twice the global average. Recent studies suggest that tidal flooding will not only continue, but increase exponentially. Further estimates that by 2030, 15 years from now, Annapolis can expect more than 180 tidal floods a year. That's like one every other day. That's by 2030. By 2045, what is that, 30 years from now, the frequency goes up again to an average of more than 360 times a year. That's every day. Between 1957 and 1963, Annapolis saw 3.8 days of nuisance flooding. 3.8 days. Yet 50 years later, between 2007 and 2013, the city had an average of 39.3 days of nuisance flooding, a 925% increase. Sea level rise is a concern across the Chesapeake Bay region. With its expansive coastline, low-lying topography, and growing coastal population, this is among the most vulnerable places in the nation. The Chesapeake Bay has seen, on average, a 1 foot increase in relative sea level rise during the 20th century. 6 inches due to global warming and another 6 inches due to naturally subsiding coastal lands, that is, the land sinking. Already, at least 13 islands in the bay have disappeared entirely, and many more are at risk of being lost. Sea level rise in the Chesapeake Bay region could reach 17 to 28 inches above the 1990 levels by 2095, or by the end of this century. Could be up to 2 feet. Who knows? Some people will poo-poo this, but what has happened in the trend is undeniable. And I think that, this administration, certainly future administrations in North Beach, have got to be very cognizant of particularly what's happening at night and Annapolis and our flood-prone areas and our beach. We're not going to have the same amount of beach. A foot and a half rise really eliminates a lot of the sand out there. So, and that bears on our efforts, economic development. And the beach is not going to, should not become the main reason to get people to North Beach, because we're not going to have that beach. We have got to begin to anticipate a day when our economic efforts have got to be directed away from the beach and getting people into North Beach for other reasons. That's not a very good news report, but that is what's going on, and I just thought I'd share that with you. And if you would like to read this book, I'm going to leave it here in Town Hall. It's called High Tide on Main Street. Okay, with that good news, we need to go into executive session. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting and to go into executive session to seek the legal advice on a contract matter?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you all for coming out this evening.